Hey there guys, welcome back to Texas Beer Reviews, and on this episode we are going to do a little side-by-side. So, we have TrimTab's Raspberry Berliner Weisse, of course TrimTab Alabama, and we also have 3 Taverns Raspberry Sour Ale Rapturous. I had 2 raspberry sour Berliner Weisse style. Of course, this one doesn't specifically say, but it's kind of in that same sort of thing. Since I had both of them, figured I'd do a little side by side and kind of compare the two. So anyway, of course, this is their TrimTab's Berliner Weisse with raspberries. It's 5% alcohol by volume, 7 IBUs. Of course, Berliner Weisse being a German-style sour wheat beer. And Rapturous is a lacto-fermented sour ale. It's on a wheat and Pilsner malt base and matured on raspberry puree. Doesn't really talk about the raspberries for TrimTabs. So TrimTabs was canned on September 15th. And 3 Taverns was canned on October 4th. So pretty close together, a couple weeks apart. So that'll be, fun to do. So let's check it out. I've had both of these beers before, just haven't done a review. So, but let's go ahead and pour the TrimTab raspberry. Room here, and let's pour the Rapturous 3 Taverns raspberry. Okay, so as you can see, they look nearly identical. Now, of course, this one looks a little bit darker. That's due to the lighting in the room. Here in person, they look exactly the same. The exact same color, exact same head. I mean, it looks like the same beer. It's kind of funny. So, let's go ahead and check out TrimTab's Raspberry Berliner. Lots of raspberry. I mean, it's like, has that very jammy raspberry-like quality. It's a little, not super intense, but still nice. Has a, the big thing is kind of raspberry jam. Getting a hint of a tartness, a hint of a lemon-like quality. But really, just the raspberries are the main thing that's sticking out. Now let's check out Rapturous. Getting the raspberries a lot again, but it's a little bit different. It's a little bit, I feel like it has a little bit more of a darker kind of character to it. Almost like a, I don't know. Like the TrimTab smells a little bit like lighter, sweeter raspberries. This one smells a bit darker, maybe a bit more of a tart raspberry. Or a more tart raspberry, excuse me. Even with that, hint of tartness, that kind of like, maybe a little bit more tartness on this one. But just, not by much. Bit of that lemon character. But really, it's just, the raspberry is definitely what shines. So, let's check out the taste on TrimTabs. Cheers. So, big raspberries. Again, it's pretty much the same on the nose, except a bit more intensity here. Nice raspberry jam. Bit of that lemon. It's got a nice hint of tart, not hint, but it's got a nice, kind of a subtle tartness. You get it. It's not sour, but it's definitely, it has a kind of a nice light tartness to it. Getting the wheat malt a bit, has a bit of that cereal kind of grain, but really the raspberries are what stands out the most here. Carbonation's kind of prickly, effervescent. I think the body is about medium. And yeah, it's a little bit more, I get a bit more acidity up front as opposed to kind of a lingering acidity on the back end. So, and I'll drink water here, and let's check out Rapturous. Huh. So it's a little different. Getting that raspberry jam still, but it's got that's kind of, I think it's a little bit brighter on the malt base, actually. I'm not sure if this is just wheat malts in this. No. But I feel like I'm getting a bit brighter malt base. You know, this is a mix of Pilsner and wheat. The raspberry is a little different on it too. I think the mouthfeel and everything is pretty much the same. It has a very subtle tartness. I'm actually thinking that the TrimTab might be just slightly more tart. It's really kind of hard to tell, but I think I'm picking the malts up a little bit more on this. Yeah. Picking the malts up a little bit more here. Getting the raspberry a little bit more here. It has just a bit more tartness to it. The mouthfeels are pretty much the same. Prickly, kind of slightly effervescent carb, medium type body. As for a rating, though these are close, overall I do prefer the TrimTab. I think it's a bit jammier from the raspberries, and I think it's just slightly more tart, which I like a bit more. Trying to figure out what I want to rate these, because I know I've rated these before standalone. I actually think I'm going to go 4 out of 5 on the Rapturous. I'm going to go 4.25 out of 5 on the Raspberry Blender from TrimTab. I was kind of going back and forth between going 4.254 or 4 and 375, or if really, you know, it was close enough. But I actually do think I like the, you know, TrimTab enough to give it a quarter of a score more. And I'm going to go 4.25 on it. I think it's actually really tasty. You know, I've had done some raspberry sour stuff like the Red Angel, and while that's of course a lot more sour and a lot more jammy in a certain sense, I really don't think you know, it kind of changes it enough to justify maybe a half a point more or a whole point more. You know, I think this is fantastic. With the lighter acidity, even though a bit lighter raspberry character, it's a little bit easier to drink and a lot easier to find. So all those factors kind of go into it for me, you know. So 4.25 TrimTab, 4 out of 5 for the Rapturous. Of course, 3 Taverns is out of Georgia. This was sent to me by Pass Me Azima on Beer Advocate, so thank you very much, sir. And TrimTabs is from Jake, so thank you as well. It's pretty fun to do the side by side. When I had both of these separately, I thought they were pretty similar, and they do have a lot of similarities. But it was nice to actually have them side by side and trying to find that kind of difference, and you know, which one I might, you know, prefer more. So I'd say if you want a bit more tartness and a bit more of that raspberry character, seek out the TrimTab if you're in Alabama or you do some local trading. And I'd say if you want a bit more malt character and a bit less tartness. Seek out the Rapturous. I'm not sure what the availability is on this guy, but you know, hopefully it's not hard to find. But yeah, that would be pretty much it for this episode. So, fun little side by side, and yeah, as always, think global, drink local, and cheers.